just hit $800,000 in MRR in under 2 years of running the company. And what they're doing is...
Nick, how's it going, man? Welcome to the SaaS Hot Seat. How you doing today?
I am excited to be here, man. I've been watching you from the sidelines, and I'm excited to talk about SaaS.
Dude, right back at you. I've been watching you since like the early days of Drippy. I've been tracking Leadbird. You guys have like I've always looked up to the way that you've done marketing. So it's great to have you here today.
I appreciate that. I don't consider myself like a marketing kind of goat or guy in any capacity, but hey, if it's working, it's working.
Yeah, you're up there at my book. I think a great way to get started is for you to give the listeners a little bit of background about yourself. We were talking before we started the recording about all the tools that you've built. You've built a ton of super impressive stuff on both the agency and the SaaS side. So give the listeners a little overview of like where you've come from, what you built.
Yeah, absolutely. So not a developer by any means. So if you're a developer, I am not technical. So you'll probably hear me mess up a ton on explaining different things about SaaS. But I built an agency about, give or take, 5 years ago. We're right now at 200 clients. It's called Leadbird. We're a B2B lead gen agency. We basically help our customers generate leads through cold email. And while building the agency, there were so many tools that we were using and like a huge tech stack that we were leveraging for our customers. And so we started building a lot of that tech stack internally. And then eventually at a certain point, I was like, you know what, we could probably sell this to other friends that, because I documented my entire journey. I've been talking about growing the agency for the last 5 years. There's a lot of guys that have, built their agency off the content that we've been putting out. And I was like, these guys would love to use these tools, right? And so we put some of them out. A lot of them have failed. A lot of them have, not hit product market fit. And some have done really well. And so, we run a collection of different SaaS companies, sitting around across all of them around 5,000 monthly active users. And, I hope some of them really take off. I hope we can, successfully exit a couple of them. But yeah, that's basically it. Basically just built a whole bunch of SaaS companies off of the idea of our agency and the tools that we were using in the agency.
Yeah. Do you want to give a quick overview of what the specific SaaS companies are, the ones that I know there's some that you want to talk about and some that you don't want to talk about. So give the listeners a quick rundown of the names of the ones that you want to talk about and kind of like what they do and what their current scale is.
Yeah. So we run Scrubby. It's the first catch-all validation tool. And this one's actually kind of funny, right? So whenever we built this SaaS, before we even built it, we wanted to validate the idea that people would actually pay for it. And so what Scrubby does, it's a catch-all verifier tool. So, if you have a catch-all email, most people just throw them out of their list. They don't prospect into them. And, that's set in gold, right? A lot of these contacts don't get emails pretty often. And the only way you could do a catch-all verification is really if you send an email to that email account and see if it bounces or not. If it doesn't bounce, then it's an active email and that you can actually send into it. And so what we did before we automated the entire backend of being able to mass scale email, mass generate email accounts, send it to the catch-alls and see if it bounces back or not, is we just do it manually. And so we built a front end where users could just upload their catch-all list and we would on the back end just execute it manually. And I think we made our first $50,000 to $60,000 in revenue before we actually built it into a true SaaS. And I thought that was hilarious because people thought we were automating it, but in reality, we're just doing it manual, and we were just literally trying to see hey, would people pay this premium price to validate their catch-all emails? That's the one that most people know me for. We built other ones like QuickLines AI. We were the first people in the market to run personalized cold emails at scale, and so you could upload a lead list and then it would personalize each email. We exited to Mailshake about a year ago, not for any huge amount, and I'm pretty sure they shelved the product, so it's not anything super fun to talk about. But what I learned from running that company was product market fit is everything. And what that tool was for the most part was just a feature, and it wasn't the main thing. And it's one of those things in the cold email arsenal. It's a nice to have type of thing. And so it's most people suck at cold email. If they ran the cold email and they have a really bad offer, it doesn't matter if they handwrite the emails and make it super personalized, they're just not gonna get results. And so our churn rate was horrendous, and there was literally no way we could figure out how to make the platform sticky. And so when we got the opportunity to get rid of it, we were super happy to do so. Funny enough though, we did run an LTD on it, and that was, I think, the second company I've ever ran that was able to hit $100,000 in a singular month. And it was cool because we're able to figure out the math behind how to make the LTD be extremely profitable and kind of how to build that. And so that was super fun. Lots of learning mistakes running that company, But that's the journey. That's how we grow. And then I've had a ton of other ones that have failed. I've ran an email platform similar to SmartLead before SmartLead came out. Did that for almost a year. Spent a lot of money on it, and we were using it. The agency was working, but like once we started selling it to other customers, I realized that PLG SaaS is extremely tough. And if you can't knock down like that UI and just like that easy to use app kind of feel, it's just so hard to manage the support on the back end because customers are like, hey, how do I use this thing? And you try to explain it to them in the chat support and it just doesn't work, right? And so lost a lot of money there, but it was a great learning lesson, honestly. And that's basically most of the companies. We run a couple of other like scrapers that a lot of like big data players use for their back end. And so that's basically a quick rundown of all the different companies that we're running.
Awesome. I'd love to dive into a little bit more of this idea of the PLG SaaS, and I know you have some strong opinions, and I think we're kind of maybe a bit opposites here in terms of our strength. Where I love getting into building the UI and thinking about how to build a SaaS that can assist the users through how to use it. It sounds like that may have been kind of the main failure mode of your email sequencing tool. What do you think was the hardest part about building a SaaS that can achieve product-led growth?
Yeah, I think so there's a couple things there. So I think let's think about like financials, right? It's extremely hard to acquire users profitably whenever you're selling a subscription that's month to month at $100 per month or less in ticket price. And I would say most PLG SaaSes are in that bucket. And when you're first starting out, you're bootstrapping something, like cash is everything. And could I go acquire 50 users? Sure, absolutely, that are each paying me $100 a month, so $5,000 in MRR. Or could I just go find 2 to 3 customers at an agency that I'm, charging $1,500 a month, $2,000 a month for, and hit that same MRR with way less work? Absolutely. And so that's where it kind of like was different for me. What I really love right now, though, because I don't think the solution and the answer to like a really scalable business model is like run an agency, because agencies are hard. It's really operationally complex to deliver for a ton of customers, and I don't think running a PLG month to month like subscription and under $100 per month ticket price is like the answer either. I've seen a lot of new companies and I love this model. It's like the hybrid, and I think a good example of this is like ListKit. So they're a B2B data SaaS company. I don't run it, not involved with them at all, but really good friend of mine, Daniel Fazio, he runs it. And they just hit $800,000 in MRR in under 2 years of running the company. And what they're doing is on the back end where they're running their ads, they're running it all to a different type of offer. And the different type of offer is like, they're gonna basically set up your cold email funnel for you. And so they'll charge you about $1,500 to get everything set up from the infrastructure side. And then they're acquiring users at break even and getting them at like a $500 to $1,000 per month subscription to use the data platform, because whenever you have that email infrastructure built out to send that much volume, you need data. And so I think like running that kind of model where it's like you're collecting and you're charging a lot more upfront to do a little bit more work, and then having like your back end monthly deliverables be automated is like the best business model that I've seen. It's just like the most scalable in my opinion. It kind of gets like the pros of the agency, but still running that SaaS. So I think that's what I love.
I can actually speak like directly to that. So we're actually implementing the same thing at Drippy currently. We just had the best 7-day period in terms of revenue that the company has seen in its history, running the same type of offer where we're running ads to a setup offer for Drippy essentially, where it's just like we do basic setup for your cold XDM outreach. My co-founder Alex has been working directly with Fazio to set up the system, and it's like
you're right.
It's already killing it for us. So I think it's a great route, and it definitely, like you said, it creates the best of both worlds. Like you can get the growth of just like having that marketing funnel that you're liquidating immediately, and then you're also on the back end retaining the MRR and like creating that kind of enterprise value of a SaaS.
Mm-hmm. It's interesting too, because it's like there's very few people and really A-tier marketers, in my opinion, that can profitably run ads at cold traffic and acquire users profitably on like a PLG model where it's like running it straight to like a $97 per month subscription. It's like extremely hard. And the only reason you see a lot of like, VC-backed SaaS companies run, heavy on paid advertising is because they can afford to burn money for 6 months and then retain a user and become profitable. And it's like when you're bootstrapped, you just can't. And so that's why I've always been like less of a fan of the PLG model after running it, for the last couple of years. And it's funny because like, we've ran so many of these PLG SaaSes, and like I keep kind of trying to like figure out like why is it not breaking like that 50 to 70K per month mark, right? Like it's just so hard for me to get past that. And I kind of look at it and I'm like, dude, our churn is just like abysmal. It's too high. And at this price point, it's really hard to lock in people. And everything we're in, like in the space we're in, which is like lead gen, and I'm sure you see this on Drippy, like churn is naturally going to be higher versus like, what you're now building, which is like a tool where it's people are going to stay on once they set it up. So, I think that's kind of how I think about it.
Yeah, that's definitely something I was very thoughtful about this time around. Where it's just like, I think in my head when I first started Drippy, I was just like, okay, once you have MRR, like that MRR is just gonna be forever, and it like could not be any farther from the truth. Like our churn rate at Drippy is super high, and like you were saying, like you just hit at this point at like it depends on the size of the type of business or what your actual churn is, but like maybe it's around 50K MRR, where it's just like we're adding 20K new MRR per month, but we're also just losing the same amount of churn and we can't grow at all. So that's something I was pretty thoughtful about. Like, this time around, how do I avoid that problem? Now I'm realizing like there's new problems that come with building a business that is low churn. Maybe it's harder to find users. I'm just getting started and figure out what those problems are going to be. But yeah, it's a fun journey. I think maybe a good thing to dive into, an area that I know you're an expert in is lead gen. So right now for Flywheel, which is my new company, I've just started doing cold email outreach and cold X outreach. I'm trying to find an offer that works. And I think I would love to like maybe like selfishly use this as kind of like a consulting call and see how I can get things up and running. So maybe the best way to get started is I told you a little bit before about what Flywheel is. How would you think about building an offer that works for cold email for a business like Flywheel? You're someone who I think runs businesses that would be Flywheel's ideal customer, so I think you'd be you're super qualified to help you out with this.
So I think the best way to run this, because it's one of those that are super hard. It is definitely a harder offer to crack on cold emails. I think what I would do is I would build a list of, and correct me if I'm wrong, like you're running a complete POG, so it's like month-to-month subscriptions on this as well.
Yeah, exactly. It'll be month-to-month subscriptions. I'm actually playing around with the idea of trying to build out some sort of setup offer and seeing if I can get that funnel to work. I'm totally open to doing that as well. Maybe to give you some context of what my current offer that I'm offering is in the cold email is that I'm basically saying, hey, if you don't have event-driven email sequences set up for your SaaS yet, that are helping users onboard, helping make sure they activate, and then helping trying to win them back after they churn, I'll set that up completely for free for you. I feel like the best place to start is just something for free, trying to get people to reply. Like that's my goal, right?
Yeah, and I think that's really great. So I would take it a step further. I think where you win is in the data enrichment side of things. So I would build a massive list of SaaS companies. Funny enough, my friend Eric Nowalski, I think he built the largest data set of SaaS companies just from running his agency. I think it's literally linked to his YouTube channel, but it'll have a list of 250,000 SaaS companies on there. And what I would do is take a huge portion of it that fit like your ICP. So it's like someone that probably is above 10 in headcount, has like a certain amount of monthly traffic to the site, so they actually have users. Because like I don't think anyone would really get too much use of your tool unless they actually had users. And then what I would do next is basically use Clay to examine each website and find the technographic data on their site, so you could see if they do already have installed something like ActiveCampaign or any of like those typical. What are some of the competitors in the space, like Customers.io? I think is one of them.
Customers.io is probably the biggest player in the space, and the kind of newer entrant is maybe like Loops.
So I would examine all these sites and see if they have it on there, and if they don't, then like I would segment that list and run a cold email where it's like, hey, I noticed that you're not leveraging any nurture, self sign up type whatever. I don't know the the verbiage to use in this stuff, but something of that sort. And then, I'd love to set up for free, whatever, and kind of run that cold email. I think that's a really good angle that would hit. And then I think you could do the opposite, where it's like, if they are using something like Loop or Customer.io, basically emailing them saying, hey, I noticed that you're using Customer.io for your, user engagement flows, whatever, and then talk about, what makes you better, or what options you have that most customers come back to you and say like, hey, this is why I transferred. And then make the CTA like, hey, would you be interested in me showing you like a quick video of the functionality that you're missing out on inside of customers.io? So I think that's like an easy way to win. And then you could keep going further. So like then you could go into BuiltWith. You could just literally download a list of people that are using customers.io, and like there's probably a ton of them. Same thing with Loop. And then another playbook that I love running is scraping a LinkedIn company page's followers. So we find this often. If anyone is following a LinkedIn company page, they're probably a customer of that company, or they used to work there, or they have a colleague that works there. And so we'll scrape the followers of a LinkedIn company page, we'll filter it a little bit to our ICP, and then we'll run cold emails to them. And like I even have a video on my YouTube channel, like we signed a customer at our agency within 7 days of the first email going out to them. And it was just running that exact playbook, And so I think there's a lot of merit there to do and run that. But those are probably the 3 types of campaigns that I would run almost immediately. Another thing I love to do, and this helps like break cold traffic when I first start SaaS companies, is I'll literally run manual DMs to some big name companies that are in our space just to get a conversation going, just so I can get something set up. Because I know that I'll be able to leverage their logo on our site as well as in the cold email. And if you have a cold email and you're like, hey, I just worked with Palo Alto to do X, Y, and Z, like everybody knows who Palo Alto is in the cybersecurity space. Like they're immediately gonna be like, oh, this guy's big time. And like that gives you such a huge edge when it comes to cracking cold traffic. And so those are probably like all the different like playbooks I would run to get like the first like 50 to 100 users. The thing about cold emails when you're running a PLG SaaS though is it's extremely hard to scale outside your own efforts, right? So it's like, whenever you're kind of in that, like, let's say you've hit product market fit, things are scaling, cold email is really not going to make sense for you unless you have a higher ticket offer. Because like sitting, and we used to do this all the time, and it's good in the beginning stages because you get a lot of good feedback and you kind of figure out like what do people actually want and things of that sort, so you can kind of go back and refix the product, reposition it, add different things in. But sitting on a sales call for a $97 per month subscription that's month to month is you won't be able to hire any kind of sales hire for that. You'll have to own it, and then eventually you'll just say, hey, this funnel, it may work, but it sucks. It's really hard to scale. And so that's quick rundown on all that.
So long term, I think Flywheel it's like a $1,000 plus average revenue per user customer. So I think in the long term, it'll make sense that we'll move up market, and it'll make sense to have those sales calls. I mean, if your contract values are minimum like $12K a year, then you can make that work.
Totally worth it.
One thing that you mentioned that I want to kind of go back to, I guess 2 things I want to dive into a little bit deeper. One, I love the idea of trying to find those logos first. How would you go about approaching those larger companies differently? Like, what do you think you need to offer them to get them to kind of use a product that maybe is currently worse than competitors in some aspects? I've done one thing with Flywheel is that we've built, I think, the best email workflow builder in the game already. I think like it's better than intercoms. It's definitely better than customer.ios. It's definitely better than loops. But we're kind of missing some of those features that those competitors are offering. There's just some things that we haven't built out yet, like transactional emails and a number of other things. So how would you kind of approach that?
Yeah, great question. So if we looked at like Loop or customer.io's website right now, they probably have some like crazy logos on their site. I'm sure they probably have like someone like Ramp on there, right? And Ramp is a company that has 500 plus employees. It's gonna be super hard for them to just switch off of any technology that they're using just because it's so embedded into their product. And so I would probably go build my Dream 100 around companies that have just raised their like first round, because and that are probably under, let's say, like 20 to 50 in headcount, because they're still in that startup phase. They now have capital and like they've raised some amount of money, so they're probably like being looked at by a lot of people and given a lot of different eyes, and they have like kind of that trajectory to grow. And I would probably just run manual DMs to them on LinkedIn, to whoever's running their head of growth, head of marketing. If they don't have that hire, literally the CEO himself. And I would literally tell them like, hey, look, I noticed that on your site that you guys don't use any kind of marketing automation tool. What is the actual phrase for this? Like, what is the, like, what is the category it's on?
I guess like, I think, what does customer.io call itself? Like customer, I'm blanking on the word right now.
All good.
I should
but I would literally just hit them up and be like, I wrote out your first
customer engagement. Customer
engagement. All right. So I noticed you're not running or using any kind of customer engagement tools. I have built something very similar to customer.io and Loop, which I'm sure you've heard of. I went ahead and wrote out and built out your first 20 customer engagement touch points to get them really engaged into your product. Mind if I send it over? Right. And literally put in the PS, like, PS, this is, there's no strings attached type of thing. Like, this is, I'm not trying to charge you. I just want you to get into the product, and I just want you to leverage, the emails that we wrote. And like, if I got an email like that, I mean, I'm not, a logo that you'd probably want on your site. We're not there yet. But if I got a DM like that, I would.
I can get right now.
I'd be interested, because I'd be like, oh shit, like, this guy already set up everything that I do need either way, so might as well just get this into the platform almost immediately. And then from there, bam, you got the logo, right? And so yeah, I think that's kind of how I would run that. And yeah, just be like really diligent about like building your Dream 100, which are just like really good, clean logos that you can put on your site, and just leverage. Like, I mean, a random company that comes off of my mind is like a lot of those AI SDR companies, like Artisan, 11x. What are the other ones there? I think those are like the two biggest ones. Like, I bet you both of those guys don't have any type of customer engagement type system set up. And I bet you if you sent DMs to them, they would probably say yes. And they're good logos to have on the site. Everyone is talking about Artisan and 11x. And I think 11x was like somewhat outed on TechCrunch a couple days ago. And so like they're getting a little bit more eyes than usual. So yeah, I think that's how I would run that playbook.
So are you actually, if you're doing this, if you're me, are you actually writing the emails before you contact them, or are you just running a little arbitrage where you say, hey, I already wrote the emails, and then like they reply and they're like, okay, now I'm gonna write the emails and I'll send them over?
Knowing me, I would probably do the latter, which is like once they get the actual reply, then do it. But like, let's say you're doing follow-ups because they haven't replied to you. If they're worth the account, and I'm like, yo, this account, if I could win it, this is a good one, I might go ahead and just like write it out and then record a Loom video and then be like, hey, if you're too busy for a call, I just sent this Loom video, check it out, let me know if you're interested.
I think that's good. That's a good balance between not doing too much work up front. And trying to be able to win them. I'd love to go back, take a step back to what we're talking about with the cold email outreach. And get really deep into like the kind of tools that you would use. So one of the other things that you mentioned was scraping the list of followers of a company account on LinkedIn. What tools are you using there? How are you getting them into your email sequencer? What is the best email sequencer on the market? What should I be using there?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, great question. So cold email now versus when I started is infinitely easier, but it's way more competitive. And so that's why you have to come up with like better sequences. And so the playbook that I always recommend to people when they're first starting out with cold email is use SmartLead. That's an email sequencer built for cold emails. It has probably the best pricing to value ratio in this space. Funny enough, whenever V hit me up, which is their CEO, and that's whenever I was building my email tool, and we were running it for the agency, and so many things were breaking, I tried SmartLead out, and I was like, okay, I am just going to completely dump this project that we probably spent like 60 to 70K a month, 60 to 70K on, and I am just going to tell V to build all the features that we had, because like I need this for the agency. Anyways, I would use SmartLead.
It's a brutal realization when you're building something, and then you like look at someone else building something, and you're just like, I don't think I can compete with that.
Oh, 100%. Yeah, literally my first call I had with them, I was like, okay, I give up. Like, that's it, that's done. And I was working on it for a full year. Anyways, I would use SmartLead. They have inside of their platform a thing called Smart Senders, which actually automates. They use a whole bunch of different providers on the back end, but you basically can spin up email accounts automatically. I think that's the most tedious part about cold emails is like managing deliverability and infrastructure, but they'll set it all up for you and get it turned over in under 4 to 12 hours, give or take. So now you have your email senders and your email accounts. Now let's go get the leads. So there's a lot of different ways to get data. I always tell people when you're first starting off with cold emails, the thing you want to avoid is spending a lot of money on a big data license. And you got to validate that the channel works for you. So you're able to generate interest, you're able to get calls booked, and you're able to actually close calls. Once you actually feel and figure out that system, then it's like, okay, let's go dump more money into this and scale it all the way out, get all the fancy tools and everything of that sort. But for data scraping, I always recommend Apollo to be like the base of all email scraping. They just give the cheapest email, and it's really easy to grab emails from there. And it has a pretty wide set database. To get the actual company followers, so that method's a little bit more tedious, but there's a lot of vendors out there that'll provide you a list in under 24 hours. Some of the vendors off of my top of mind, there's like one that's called scrapefollowers.com, scrapeli.com, and then Golden Leads as well. And yeah, those are all the ones that I think provide company follower scraping. But if you just Google like LinkedIn company follower scraping, you'll probably find like 10 different vendors now.
Cool.
Yeah, and so that's probably how I'd go about it. And then when it comes to copywriting, my framework for it is always simple, short, direct, some level of personalization. And then the CTA, you always want to make it kind of like conversational and casual. Instead of like, hey, do you want to get on a sales call tomorrow? It's like, hey, like, can I send over this quick Loom video that shows what we built for you? Something of that sort. And then the name of the game is volume. A lot of people, they send like 100 emails and then they're like, I didn't get a closed customer. I'm not a millionaire yet. And it's like, you sent 100 emails. Like, even if you had the absolute best reply rate, which is like, 7 to 10%, that's 10 people that responded. Out of the 10 people that responded, you may have one person that actually says they're interested, which is like totally normal. But, if you want to really scale, you got to send thousands and thousands of emails. And just the only thing you should be split testing as well is the offer. And so, yeah, that's like the simplest playbook on cold emails, but it works. It works to get you your first handful of users, and then you can figure out how to optimize and tweak it later down the funnel.
Yeah, it's good to hear that. I think at least initially it sounds like I'm on the right track. Essentially, what I did is I did one of the things that you actually mentioned earlier, which is I used BuiltWith. I scraped all the people who are using a tool called PostHog, which is one of the integrations that we have. Uploaded those to Apollo, found the emails for those companies, and I've been running emails to that list. And then the other thing I did is there's a website called there'sanaIforthat.com, and it's just like a directory of like AI startups. So I built a manual scraper, scraped all those companies, found those emails, and I've been sending out to them as well. I think that the thing that I realized is I need to get the volume up a little bit. What would you say is the like just getting started? Like, what's the minimum volume you should be doing just for like trying to figure out what's the offer that works? Is this going to work for me at all?
I would say at the very minimum, you want to be sending about 10,000 emails a month. You want to reach out to about 5,000 net new contacts per month. And that is a good place to start. And just kind of speaking back on integrations as well, I think this is the most underutilized campaign for SaaS companies. Like, whenever we get any kind of SaaS company that signs up with Leapbird, the first type of campaign we always push for is those integration style campaigns. So if they integrate with any of these like different tools, being able to reach out to their customers, just like you are with BuiltWith, finding their customers and reaching out to them, and literally saying, hey, we built an integration with PostHog that's going to allow you to do X, Y, and Z. I notice you're not using any kind of customer engagement tool currently, interested in a quick demo. And something like that's always going to crush. The other thing I would also say is on copywriting. Whenever you're smaller, you have such an advantage, right? When you're new to the market, you have such an advantage because you can do all the gimmicky, like funny, random personalization that a lot of these larger companies refuse to do because of brand reputation. So it's like, if you put in the PS something funky like, PS, I'm 24 years old, this is my second startup, and I have no idea how old you are, just assuming 24, 25, around that age.
25, you got me.
25, okay, I'm 25. If you just like say I'm 25 years old and I'm literally this is my second time building this up, and I just want to get my first couple customers, so like I'm happy to do this and set it up for free. Let me know if you're interested. Something like that, like just put something funny and gimmicky in there. Like, dude, that'll crush too. Because like if you get an email from someone that's just like a hustler, a killer, right? Like I'm always down to help out. Like if they need feedback and like they're not trying to charge me, like dude, I'm always open for a demo. And so it's like I think things like that also will really work in your favor.
Cool. Yeah, that's actually something I just updated my copy yesterday, and that's one of the things that I put in, just saying like listen, like I'm just getting started. It's just me. Like I'm just doing it for free, so I can get some feedback and find my first customers. So I feel like that's something that I would respond to personally. Going back, taking a step back real quick to what you mentioned with the kind of brand partnerships. Can you dive a little bit deeper into that? I want to understand how that works. Like can you give like an example of one of those that you've done?
So like when you say brand partnerships, what are you speaking about specifically?
Yeah. So when you were saying that you like with the integration partnerships.
Understood. Yeah. So I think like the entire campaign on that one, it's just because like so many people are looking for tools that integrate. Like if something integrates with, or so let's say like our CRM, the CRM we use is HubSpot at our agency, right? If someone emails me and is like, hey, we built a mobile enrichment tool that can enrich all the contacts inside your HubSpot CRM, is that something you'd be interested in? Like that's a no-brainer for me because it's like, I don't have to pull it out of my platform, and like I can still use my CRM and it integrates in there. So I'm assuming that like I could just like one click enrich all my contacts in there with phone numbers. Like that's the stuff that people love, and nobody runs campaigns at scale like that. And to me, whenever I see a SaaS company and they have like a massive integration page, that's like, this is gonna be a campaign that cooks, because like we could just go grab each integration from BuiltWith, each one of their customers, find contacts at scale, and run cold emails at volume where it's like, hey, we integrate with your CRM HubSpot. We can enrich all your contacts in there with mobile numbers. Let me know if you're interested. And it's like that's always gonna print for the forever.
Okay, so for me that playbook is looking like scrape the PostHog list and just be like, hey, we built this tool that integrates directly with PostHog. It's super easy to send event-driven emails based on the events that you're already tracking with PostHog and test that out.
Yeah, exactly. Because correct me if I'm wrong, PostHog just tracks like what the user's doing. It doesn't send out the emails or anything for them, right?
Exactly. It's just
exactly.
like web analytics platform essentially, product
and
analytics platform.
And the key there to make the campaign really work is like you have to give them something that is just gonna blow their mind. It's like that thing that's like, if I could do this through PostHog, I would absolutely crush, right? So it's like, I don't know PostHog enough to be able to give you a really good example, but like, doing like the event drip emails, like that's cool and all, but what's that like next step where it's like, oh, hey, whenever a customer is hovering or visiting the billing page more than 3 times, we could enter them into a churn reduction flow that does this, and this. Like right. That now is like, yeah, exactly. And like that now is like, hey, if I'm having a high churn and, I know that in PostHog, if I see a customer visit the billing page 3 times, they're guaranteed a churn, then like I need something set up right then and there, right? So it's like getting really granular into something that's super specific but super value driven versus just kind of doing like the generic, like, hey, we can do event-based triggers and marketing emails. Like get a very specific use case in there, and that's how you really turn the head on it.
Okay, I think I need to figure out like what that use case is and figure out that copy.
And the best way to do it is just like run like 6 split tests on your email and just do a different like event trigger on each one of them and see which one's the one that's getting the most amount of replies. Like right. The data will speak on it.
Cool. Yeah, I'm gonna test that out like this month. All right. So for the emails, like so we figured out kind of like what that initial email should look like. What is your strategy in terms of follow-ups after that initial email?
Yeah. So we figured. I don't know why it took me so long to figure this out, but I'm kind of like anti follow-ups for the most part in cold email. And I know a lot of people say like the money is in the follow-up and everything of that sort. But when we run, and for people listening, like we send over 2 million emails a month for across all our customers. And I would say a majority of all our positive replies, like probably like over 80% of all our positive replies happen on touch 1, email 1. And it just drops off tremendously after every touch point. And so I even think about it from my perspective. When I get a cold email, and I get a decent amount of cold emails, when someone follows up with me 4 times in the same email thread, it starts to get a little annoying, right?
Yeah, I'm pissed.
And
I'm pissed at that point.
And that's whenever I'm like
spam report.
Yeah, exactly, right? And so it's funny. I actually never report anybody as spam, because I believe in karma, and I'm like, they're gonna get my customers' emails marked as spam. But I agree with you. That's how most people are, right? And so I always recommend just doing a 2-step sequence at most, and like you will have a much better chance of generating more leads the more contacts that you actually reach out to, right? The more net new contacts you reach out to. So we put a lot more emphasis on reaching out to more net new contacts than we do about like, you know, following up with someone like 4 or 5 times. I think if you're running into a TAM that's extremely small, you know, you don't have, like, let's say you only have like 500 accounts in your TAM, then like, I would say, you know, you have to kind of do the follow-ups, but I would recommend doing it in a new thread versus all in the same one. And then also making it to where you hit them up across multiple channels versus just on email. Because I think that's like the lazy way, and it kind of shows whenever you just like hit them every other day on just email. But in most cases, like most SaaS companies that I see, they do have large TAMs. You have a large TAM, I have a large TAM. Like it's gonna make much more sense to send 2 emails to a lot more contacts versus 4 emails.
Cool, that's lining up exactly. I had Cody Snyder on with the first episode, and it's basically the exact same advice he gave. He's just like, dude, like 1 follow-up, just focus on hitting more people. Like that's what's important. And then I think the kind of the last part of the cold email strategy is like inbox management. Once you're at scale, what are your strategies for making sure that you're A, responding to people immediately, and then B, just like, I know there's a lot that goes into it, like the deal is not won once you have a reply to a cold email. Like what's your strategy for winning as many of those deals as possible?
Yeah, and you know what's funny, whenever we're running our PLG SaaS and we're running our cold emails, we actually try so hard not to have to do inbox management, because like whenever you're doing an inbox management, like at our agency, it's like you're trying to book a call, and for a lot of our PLG SaaS, it's like I'm not doing a sales call for, you know, some of these like $97 per month subscription products. So like what I would say is like one thing that we built was we would literally just auto create accounts whenever they got tagged as like interested in, like, because like most of our CTAs are like, are you interested in a free trial? And whenever anyone would respond with that, we would tag them, and then it would go into our database, create an account, however that's done. And we would just literally email them back the credentials as well as the login page, and be like, hey, look, we already created an account for you. Go ahead and log in and play around. We added, you know, X amount of credits to your account. Let us know how it goes, right? And then that's how we just kind of get more users added to the app to just start getting going. And like, I think the product speaks for itself. If like you like the product, you know, they'll sign in and then continue to keep using it. If not, they don't. But in terms of organization, I would say get a CRM, make sure all your positive replies are syncing into their CRM, and that you have some level of like a nurture sequence built out to either re-engage the lead. So like for us, like the way I like to look at nurture is twofold. And I guess this is more for the agency and booking a call, which you're doing either ways right now. But it's like, for us, our sales cycle, we know that we have like the highest chance of closing someone in the first 14 days. And so as soon as a sales call is booked, they're put into a nurture sequence where it's sending 7 emails over the 14 days, so almost every other day. And it's just, you know, very social proof driven. And then after the 14th day, if we don't have them marked as like closed won inside of our CRM, we put them into a year-long nurture where it sends like a weekly email about cold email related items and things that we're doing. And that's kind of like our entire process. In your CRM, sync all your inboxes in there, so then you can kind of, you know, be able to manage all the follow-ups and replies through there. When you're doing it at a small scale, it's much easier to do. So like, let's say you have sub 50 email accounts, it's easy to kind of do that. Right now, across all our customers, we're at like 83,000 email accounts. And so it's really hard for us to do anything outside of use SmartLead's master inbox, which is also pretty good, but it's not like the greatest. Like I prefer using like a
featured CRM.
Yeah, exactly. You know, and so like I like using the CRM to do it if I was doing it internally. But yeah, that's kind of how I would go about inbox management.
Right. Yeah, that makes a ton of sense. And then do those that email sequence for like that first 2-week period that you're that nurture sequence, what like, can you give me an example of like what some of those emails look like? I know you said it's social proof, but just to get a little bit.
So for our agencies, it's like I think our first email in our and honestly, if anyone wants to book a demo at Leaper to do that, and you can kind of see the entire flow, just don't no-show us. But the first email is it's literally like what we say in there is something on the lines of like, there's not a single other agency out in the space that has more social proof than us, and if you can find an agency that has more documented video testimonials than us, we'll buy your team lunch. and then it like links like our G2 or like all those things that kind of drive more social proof. So like our SmartLead certified partner badge, all our video testimonials, and then like just like a whole bunch of things like that. So yeah, like it's just like really trying to solidify us as like, you know, one of the top tier cold email agencies in the world. And the next 14 days is just showcasing that. So I think like the second one in there, like the day 2 email nurture sequence is literally like, you know why top tier agencies, or I think it's literally like something on the lines of like, we're the second most replied to account inside of SmartLead because our campaigns are so good. And then it's like a screenshot of their CEO telling us that we had in the last year the second most replies out of all 90,000 SmartLead users. And so it's just like more social proof and validation. I've done like webinars with like Clay, Ocean, some of these like, you know, bigger SaaS companies. And then it's also like, you know, this is why Leadbird is a top tier cold email agency. We run you know, webinars with billion-dollar companies like Clay, companies that have raised $10 million like Ocean, things like that. So it's just like, it's just really pushing the message of like social proof heavy driven stuff. And so yeah, that's kind of how I do it. And funny enough, the way we go about writing these emails, because it's so hard for me to write out these marketing newsletter type emails. Dude, I just literally open up ChatGPT on my phone and I just speak to it. And I'm just like, hey, I need help writing a marketing newsletter email. This is my idea for email 1. And I'll just like speak about like what my idea is on it. Can you write an email like template for me? And then it'll pop it out, and I'm like, oh shit, this is pretty good. And then we just copy paste it. And like, dude, like yeah, like whenever I redid ours this last week, what I thought was gonna be like a 4-day, you know, venture was like a 4-hour venture. And I was like, dude, AI is incredible.
Dude, it's so nice. Especially like for me. So one of the things I'm doing with this podcast is I essentially take each episode and then I convert it into like a playbook. So this will kind of probably be like the cold email like lead gen playbook for SaaS. But I just, to get the first draft of that, I just take the transcript, I drop it in. I've been using Grok recently actually because I think the writing style sounds a little bit more natural, like less like AI, but I drop it in Grok and say, here's the example of the last one. I just did this for the previous episode. And dude, it spits out, now that it has an example and the new transcript, it spits out something that's almost ready to send. It's amazing. It's just helping me move so much faster.
No, I agree. I think like marketing, like content is so much easier to push out now with a lot of these advancements. Like even with Cody, like he showed us like how to kind of go about like making a podcast at scale and being able to like disperse like be able to clip it really easily, be able to make all the content to spread across all your socials, post it on YouTube, and then actually grow the newsletter list with it. And I was like mind blown. I was like, you're able to do what like used to take like a whole production team. Now you could just have 2 really good VAs with really good SOPs. You know, you're paying under $2,000 a month and have like a full on like consistent media company on top of your SaaS. And like that blew my mind. And it's like, I wish I had more time to like really make it really like good and diligent and stuff. But yeah, like stuff like that just like blows my mind. And that's why I think like a lot of the stuff that's going to happen in the next like 2 years, it's all about just volume. You know, like the person that's pumping out a ton more content right now is going to win. Obviously the content has to be like above average, which I think is not super hard to do. But yeah, I think like volume is the number one thing. That's why like we post on Twitter, LinkedIn, and now Reddit. Reddit's an interesting one, but we post like content about 3 times a day across all 3 of them. Every single day. We've done that for like the last year, and that's driven a lot of lead flow across all the companies.
Yeah, how are you thinking about generating that content? Because I think one of the advantages of the podcast in the first place is it gives you like a good core valuable thing to base the content off of. Because I think if you like just try to generate like just general content with AI, like it's going to give you the most basic version of it. But I think having the podcast as a core and then using it, I like, okay, turn this podcast into like these like 4 different other media assets. I think that's pretty advantageous. Are you guys doing the same thing, or how are you thinking about that?
And I agree, right? Like you have to have real world experiences to be able to create good content. And so it's like, if you're not building a business and wanting to hit your head against the wall and you're not solving hard problems, like it's really hard to create content. But when I first started posting on Twitter, about 5 years ago, I would literally block out my Saturday mornings and I would just sit there and think, what were all the problems that I solved this last week? And I would just write content based off of that. And it's the same premise, but yeah, I think like a lot of the people that struggle with content or just hire like a ghostwriter or an agency of some sort and fail, it's strictly because they're just doing like the generic fluff to put generic fluff out there, and they're not actually posting content that's like truly valuable, right? Like you could figure out how to run like the craziest cold email playbooks by just like looking at our content, right? And I think that's the part that most people miss out on. And I don't even write my content anymore. Like I have a content writer that I speak with on Mondays, and all we do is talk about what we did the last week. And then he's just writing out LinkedIn and Twitter posts. So it's not like, you know, they're not non-original ideas. They're my ideas, they're my thoughts, and like what we've learned the last like month of running all these companies and, you know, trying to grow them, all the losses we took, and being able to just document that. And I think that's the way to kind of stand out as a B2B founder. I think, dude, you do a phenomenal job on content. Your content is so interesting to see. Same thing with Cody Snyder. I think both of you guys, like, I love the content. Mine's like a little bit too educational. You guys are like in that fine line of entertaining and educational, and like I want to figure out how to get that style going, but that's the style that's like really gonna crush over the next like year or two. Like you see all these other guys like what's that other really, he just built that airplane like kind of
the boom guy. What airplane are you? What airplane are you talking about?
It's like it's kind of like, I don't even know. It's like that game. He made a game and he posted about it publicly, and he has like he made those AI companies with the face stuff.
Levels. Peter
Peter Levels. Yeah.
Dude,
like he's a great example.
Levels. Dude, I DM'd Levels to try to get him to come on the podcast the other day, and he just muted me. He didn't respond. Like, I just sent him a super nice message to be like, hey man, like I know that this is a long shot. I have a podcast that doesn't get any views at all, but like it would be great if you came on. And I said like kissy face, and then I like checked it like 2 weeks later, and I just see like you can no longer send messages to this person.
Peter, you got to come on the pod. You know, my version of that is I'm too scared to hit up. So Henry Jacques, which is the Zoom Info CEO, he's like the godfather of B2B sales, like probably like you know, a GOAT in my opinion, right? He followed me maybe like 3 years ago on Twitter, and I've been just so nervous to like hit him up or anything of that sort, because I'm like, dude, I don't want to burn this bridge in any case scenario. And like, he runs a publicly traded company, so I'm like, dude, he does not have the time to speak to me, you know? And so I'm like too scared to hit the guy up, but I want him on the pod eventually one of these days, because yeah, he's probably like, he's literally like the originator of B2B data SaaS, you know? And like that's such a huge market. But you know what's funny though? And this is why I love like this content space. So I was raising money for my cousin who passed away, for his kids. And I just posted about it on Twitter, and I was like, hey, if anyone donates to this, I'll do a consultation call as well as match your donation. And we raised like about 30K in total, which I thought was really cool. And he was one of the first people that donated. And I was like, oh, this is crazy. This is literally like a publicly traded CEO of like one of like the biggest companies like out there, who just donated just straight off of a tweet. And I don't know, I just thought that was amazing. Like that really was like, I don't know, it was just surreal to see that.
Yeah, I think on X specifically, a lot of people are lurkers. Like you don't really realize that. Like dude, like you were talking about my content now, dude. I had no idea you'd ever read anything or watched anything that I put out. So it's just like you don't really realize the reach that you have until you have those random moments like that. But I've been trying to figure out how to kind of scale on X recently. I think I'm gonna move into LinkedIn shortly. I think I'd maybe switch my style up for LinkedIn a little bit. I think my current X strategy is a bit too unhinged for LinkedIn, because I would describe my current X content as like, I want someone to look at my account and be like, there's no way an AI wrote any of this. Like that's kind of my goal for now. You mentioned LinkedIn, you mentioned Reddit as well. How are you thinking about those two platforms and what's working there?
So Reddit is, funny enough, if you go look me up on Reddit, I'm getting obliterated in the comments, right? Like, dude, these guys are coming at my necks. Like, you know, I posted something, and like, we're basically just like repurposing our content that we posted on like YouTube and LinkedIn and Twitter and stuff like that. Because we're like, why not, right? Just another channel to, you know, keep growing brand impressions, things of that sort. And like, you know, in my opinion, it's pretty good content. It's pretty educational. And like, we put them in the right subreddits and stuff of that sort. And we posted this one recently where it's like, you know, I've spent $1.7 million over the last 4 years on lead gen, because that's what we have spent on like Leadbird and whatnot. to just learn all these things. Here's the 17 most important things I've learned, right? Dude, I got so many accusations of being a fraud and everything of that sort, and people just coming at my neck. And it was funny because like that day we like did some update to our site, so our site was down, and they're like, dude, your site doesn't even work, you're a fraud and all these things. But yeah, we're just testing Reddit out. I don't really see anything coming out of it, but it's kind of funny just seeing all the people get so mad and heated on just like cold email content, that it's kind of fun to post it there to see what people say. But LinkedIn has been really good for us. That's been the channel that's actually grown the most. I think I've kind of plateaued on Twitter. And I think my Twitter content, it's like, it needs to be or less unhinged, right? Or more unhinged, sorry. So it needs to kind of like go out of the way of, outside of being educational all the way through. But yeah, LinkedIn, like, you know, I'm kind of like that perfect fit for it, where we're just posting like informational content. I think we went from like 2,000 followers. I think I'm at 16,000 right now in under probably 2 years. On Twitter, I think I haven't grown more than like 3,000 to 5,000 over the last 2 years. And so yeah, LinkedIn is great. It's doing, I don't know how many impressions we're doing a month. I think I want to say over 500,000, maybe 1 million impressions a month, which is like pretty solid on LinkedIn. And it actually is getting like really good conversations started with like people that I want to speak with. And so yeah, I think that's the big thing. And then Twitter, yeah, I mean, I still haven't really cracked Twitter. I think I got kind of lucky with just posting early before anyone else started, and so that's how I was able to build like, you know, the amount of followers we have now.
You're like 20. You're pretty big. You have a pretty big Twitter.
Yeah,
like 25K or something. Right?
Yeah, but I don't think the engagement is like, I see some of these other guys that have like way less followers, but their engagement is through the roof, and like people are like psyched about their content. I need to figure out how to get back there. I think YouTube is really underrated. I think that's where I would love to figure out how to crack like a content style that just does really good. I mean, you see like Iman Ghazi in the last like 3 years, like this dude has blown up like none other through his YouTube content, and the style that he's like kind of pioneered in a way is being copied by so many people, but it's like, it's really good. It's entertaining, you know? And I think like, kind of like what I was saying earlier, like being able to figure out that fine line of entertainment in B2B SaaS or in just B2B in general is like, that's where the gold is going to be in like the next 3-5 years.
Yeah, I agree. I think if someone can crack like viral B2B content, they're going to make a lot of money. I think I've seen a lot of people talking about this. I haven't seen anyone, I think, even really close to doing it, just because, you know, B2B it's boring, and
it is boring.
Is niche. I think I need to do LinkedIn as well at some point, but I can't bring myself to post on LinkedIn, so I think I'm gonna have to wait until I can afford to bring on just like a copywriter. Like, all right, take this unhinged crap that I'm cranking out on X, and like just LinkedInify it for me. So maybe that will be my strategy there. But
it would be pretty interesting, because like anytime I post on LinkedIn that like we sent 2 million emails in a month, they come at our necks saying like this is spam. I would love to see something like, yo, we just sent. I mean, dude, how many DMs do you think you sent across all your users in the last like month?
In the last we're probably closing in like on 1 million per month.
Yeah, so like being able to say like we sent 1 million cold DMs on Twitter in the last month. Here's what I've learned.
That's an underestimate for sure.
I was gonna say it has to be higher than that.
It's definitely quite a bit higher than that. I think.
Dude, I get like 15 a day, so I was like, I know they're all contributed to you. I love it though. I love it.
Cool, man. Is there anything else that you wanna touch on before we wrap things up?
No, I think we covered a lot. This is a good conversation. I actually enjoyed it. I love podcasts like this when you're talking to other founders, because it's just like you get to just riff, and it's just like a normal conversation versus like I've done a lot in the past where it's just like robotic and it's like the same question every single time. I love this. This is great. Yeah,
my goal, I think I didn't do. I'm trying to improve each episode, and I think my goal after the last two was to be like less interview, more conversation. I feel like
this is great.
Getting started out more interview, but I agree. Like I love to be able to just chop it up a little bit. Sweet man, where can people find you? Twitter, LinkedIn, YouTube. Plug it all. Plug your company.
Yeah, come check me out on Reddit. Come support the guy, because I'm getting obliterated there now. But type in Nick Abraham. You'll find me on LinkedIn, Twitter, Reddit, YouTube, everywhere, and hopefully we'll keep growing everything. And hopefully, you know, I'll figure out how to crack a PLG SaaS, and I'll be able to come back on this pod in like 2 years and talk about how Flywheel helped me, how we use PostHog, and went crazy with it. So yeah, that's the next goal.
Dude, Let's after I hit stop, I'm gonna try to sell you real quick on Flywheel.
Yeah, dude, sell me. Let's do it.
All right. Thanks for listening, guys. See ya.
Absolutely.